This tree is 8 years old.
This tree is 2 years old.
This tree was planted in a rush.
This tree was planted with intention and lots of care.
So if you're anything like we were, in the beginning we were in such a rush, we thought these trees are going to take 3 to 5 years to produce. We got to get started and just get them in the ground. We didn't do much research. We didn't have the knowledge either of how to plant. So as you can see, the other lemon tree that was planted 8 years ago really suffered. It's been a struggle to bring it back and get it back on track. Whereas this one, we planted this on our wedding, and one thing I didn't want to do is plant a tree that wasn't going to do well. You know, like it would have been such a disappointment for everyone. I put everything I know, all of my knowledge of what this tree would need. I did research, and it really paid off because this tree is towering over me right now. I'd say it's 8 feet tall. It has tons of lemons on it, probably 50 lemons. I usually would say cut the lemons off before 3 years, but this tree was doing so well, I said, you know, let's keep them on there. And it's not skipping a beat. I mean, these leaves look great. This tree is incredible. And that begs the question, you know, what if we planted every single tree on this property with that same level of intention and thoughtfulness? We'd be much further along, you know, in 2 years than 8 years. So this video is for those people just starting out. You know, I'm here to tell you, you don't need to rush. Take your time, do the research, and we're going to share with you a lot of tips that we've learned along the way to actually ensure your tree is going to thrive and not just struggle along and, you know, grow very slow and just be bad, you know.
So the first step is do your research. So the first thing you need to figure out is what kind of climate you're in and what elevation you're at, and then find out what trees do well in that climate and elevation. So an easy way to research that is to use the internet, and you can Google what trees do well in my climate. But an even better way is to ask around your neighbors, go into their houses and ask them. You can call them, or even better, you can just go into a public nursery and ask the people that work there that are pretty much experts and ask them what they think is good for you to grow in your area. So once you pick out the trees that you like that also do well in your area, you got to make sure that you look into the specific requirements of that tree. And this will include things like its sun and shade tolerance, its wind tolerance, its drainage requirements, its soil pH needs, how much rain it likes, how much water, irrigation it needs, and what kind of things it likes to do for fun. So the third thing you got to research is the soil that you have. Or if you're like us and you don't have soil, you got to research the soil that you'll be importing. So we get soil imported from Hamakua Coast. So we got to look into the properties of that soil and see what kind of amendments you need to add to it in order to make it suitable for growing trees. Lucky for us, we've been reading papers that tell us kind of what you got to do in order to improve that soil. So definitely soil, research what you need.
So now that you've done all the research, you know exactly what your tree needs, you're going to prep the hole. This is going to be different for everyone, but I'm going to go through what we do here. It'll maybe give you some ideas about how to do this. If you live in this area, it'll be great for you because you'll probably be doing the same thing we do. So the first thing to do when you are prepping a hole is do it way in advance. You don't want to have the tree sitting around forever. A lot of times I'll prep the hole before I even buy the tree. That way it's not sitting around. I usually prep the hole and then let the whole thing sit for at least 1 to 2 months. That way all the amendments and fertilizers and mulch I put in there has the time to settle in and normalize or equalize everything. Because when you add all that stuff together, sometimes things get a little crazy in there with reactions. So you want to let it sit and calm down. And also that helps bring all the life in. So you'll be mixing up a lot of things, and once it has the time to sit, that's when all the microbes come in, start to digest all that stuff that you put in and make it more available for the plants. So the first thing I like to do when preparing a hole is I like to mix all my amendments together with the compost and then set that aside. The second thing I like to do is go where the tree is going to be and just clear around. It makes it easier to dig the hole and work around, and also just clears out the weeds, all the roots that are around the tree where it's going to be and stuff. So I'll get that nice and fresh, freshly cleared. Third thing you're going to do is actually dig a hole if you can. Here we're on ripped lava, so we have about 2 feet of boulders that we dig out. And you have two options here. You could either dig it and plant it so the tree is flush with the ground, or you can mound it up. This may depend on what your tree requires. Maybe it likes to be a little more dry, so you'd raise it up on that mound. Maybe it's something that doesn't really want to do that or doesn't need to, so you'd put it flush. It all depends on the tree and what you want to do with it. The fourth thing we do is we just get a cinder soil, just cinder and soil. You can adjust the ratios also depending on the tree you're planting, but we take that cinder soil mix and we fill the hole, either mound it up or keep it level. And then once we have that all settled, then we'll come back in with that compost that I pre-mixed and mix that in. After I do that, I'll cover it with mulch and then let it sit for at least 1 to 2 months. So everything can settle in, microbes could come in. That way you're not planting a tree in an area that possibly is releasing different chemicals because you've mixed all these different amendments and fertilizers together. It could just be bad for the tree. You could be fine. It all depends on what you're adding, but safe to let it sit and just let all those microbes come in and do some work for you. That way when you plant the tree, it's just ready to grow and absorb some nutrients.
So the third step, which is kind of like the main thing that we want to come across in this video, is that you want to plant your tree with a purpose and a real intention. And you need to know why you're planting this tree and why you want it to grow well. So for us, for example, in that tree that we showed in the beginning, the variegated pink lemon, that tree we planted for our wedding day. So we put so much thought into it. So much love and intention went into it. Firstly, we chose the tree based on the symbolism that it represents. The lemons represent abundance and luck and happiness and greatness and all this wonderful stuff that we want to symbolize in our marriage. And we planted it near our house because it's supposed to ward off evil spirits. We definitely don't want evil spirits. And we wanted it to be a reminder of our wedding day and of our love to each other, a tree that we can always look at and think back to that beautiful memory. So we obviously really wanted to make sure that this tree would thrive. So we did all those steps. We researched and prepped the site and everything. And then the actual tree planting itself, that was like a super intense ceremony. It was part of our wedding ceremony, obviously. And it involved us taking different elements from the land that we were going to add into the soil and just like setting prayers into it. And we involved the community and our friends and family that were involved in the wedding. And everybody said their prayers and put their love and intention into the tree and planted it into the soil. So it got like supercharged with amazing, wonderful energy. So our friend that officiated the wedding, she's a Reiki master. So she did a whole Reiki ceremony to the tree. Like it was just this tree got so much love and wonderful, beautiful stuff into it. So we're thinking to ourselves, like, what if we did all of that, or sort of maybe like a condensed version of that ceremony into every tree that we planted? How much nicer would that tree grow and thrive? So obviously you can't have like a wedding ceremony for every single tree that you plant because you probably shouldn't. That's kind of weird. But what you could do is just like have the intention to plant the tree because you want your future self or your future children, your future families and people in your community to be able to benefit from the fruits of this tree. Also, or if you're planting the tree because it's going to be a future investment, something that you could make money off of in the future, like if you really want it, you really have to put that intention into it and think about it as you're planting the tree and envision that prosperous future and put that into the soil. Yeah, so other ways that it can make it easy for you to be able to put that much love and intention into every tree planting is to dedicate the tree to a special person or event, such as like the birth of a child, or you just want to dedicate it like to someone that you love, somebody that passed away that you love. And then another way to make it symbolic is to involve your friends and family into the tree planting so that you get also their love and intention put into the planting of the tree. And yeah, just make it as abundant in love and good energy going into the tree planting as possible.
So the fourth thing you want to think about is the management of the tree. Are you going to be able to take care of this tree after you plant it? Because if you're not, you might as well not even plant it, because the management is just as important. So what that involves is obviously pruning and fertilizing the tree. You're going to have to do this on a regular schedule throughout the year. You may be doing more pruning later on, more fertilizing in the beginning. You're going to have to figure that out before you plant the tree. And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So make sure you definitely plan things out so you don't fail. One other thing I want to add to this is don't plant more than you can take care of. A lot of times here, we have 2 acres or more planted out. A lot of times I just wish I planted 1 acre. Everything on that 1 acre would get twice as much attention and care, and I wouldn't feel so overwhelmed sometimes. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Just start small and plant maybe 1/4 acre, and then okay, I can manage that, so maybe half, and then just build from there. When we started, we just planted 2 acres and not even thinking about, are we going to be able to take care of this? How much time is it going to take? We made a lot of mistakes here, but the good news is you guys don't have to make these mistakes, because we'll tell you what they are, and then you won't have to make them. If anybody is wanting to start a big project and not quite sure how to go about it, they don't want to make a lot of mistakes, maybe this is going to be a business for you, it is a good idea to hire like a mentor, somebody to do a consultation with and plan things out. And if you don't want to make mistakes for 8 years, you could find out from somebody that has the experience on what to do, how to plant things, what trees do well, what do they need, all that stuff. If you're interested, send us an email at aloha.offgridhawaii@gmail.com. The old proverb is, when's the best time to plant the tree? 20 years ago, right? But if you did a bad job, it's not going to matter, because it's going to either be dead or just not doing well at all. So, if you planted it 2 years ago and you did a great job, then you'll be getting fruit by now. So that could be the best time.